Okay, so after reading chapter 7, it was pretty great to see that I was familiar with a good amount of it, but also learned quite a few things along the way. Currently I work in a classroom. In the mornings I work in a second grade classroom. In the afternoons I work in sped classroom, but then also we also integrate into the gen ed classroom in the afternoon for a third grade classroom. So both of the children I work with actually have they receive tier 3 intervention, and I support that. So like I'm the one that kind of facilitates that. I do the 95% phonics, and then I do Spire with a second grader. But so it was really awesome to kind of get to know a little bit more about the depths and the reasoning behind all of the things that I'm doing on a daily basis. But also looking back on the chapter, seeing that the teachers that I'm in the classroom with on a daily basis are doing honestly exactly what is being preached in the text. A couple of things that I have learned through courses and also through working in the classroom is, first and foremost, to get children motivated is to understand what motivates them. And as far as when it comes into literature, I believe taking a survey at the very beginning. So it's kind of like hey, I'm interested I like to read about robots. I like to read about science. I like to read about trucks. That's personally what the child that I work with in the mornings, it's a struggle for him to get to read. He's not motivated to do it. He doesn't see, unless you put a book in front of him that has to do with robots or monster trucks or cars. And so I think first and foremost, you need to connect with each student and understand where they are and where their interests are held, because I think that's going to motivate them to learn more. They're going to read it because they want to know about those trucks and those robots. But also to make sure that you're organizing, once you gauge where all the interests are, making sure that you're organizing your classroom library to mirror what was said. So if you see that, you have a lot of children interested in those things, making sure that you have several levels of those particular books so that the child that's reading at a level K can pick up a book about robots, and then also a child that's reading at a level L or an M or even a P can pick up those books as well and find something that's just right for them. But making sure your classroom library is labeled, having multiple genres. Another thing that I thought was really neat that I've seen on a daily basis is they do the Lucy reading or reading lessons. So what they do is they do little mini lessons and teach them when they go into independent reading, like exactly what kind of strategies to work with. So like, okay, I don't know this word. I need to scoop up what can I scoop up of that word that I understand, or taking smaller parts of each word and understanding to try to understand the whole, or tapping the sound out or tapping the sounds out, or looking at the context to understand it doesn't make sense. So that was something in the text that I thought was really interesting that I've seen on a daily basis. Another thing is the exposure to read alouds and think alouds. So when they're doing these mini lessons, I think it's really awesome that as a teacher, and like whether it be in a gen ed classroom or even in a tier 3 intervention, just making sure that you're talking through, like you're giving them examples of what they are expected to do when they're independent reading. So if, for example, okay, today our focus is to figure out what the author's purpose was. So when you're reading it, okay, what's the author's purpose? You do the mini lesson in front of the children to kind of like, you read a book that you're focused on in a certain genre, whatever that may be a part of the curriculum. And then you talk about it. You say, okay, like as a whole, what do we think the author's purpose was? What details in the story? What made you think that his purpose was to entertain, or his purpose was to inform or to persuade? But making sure that you're doing, again, it's I do, we do, you do kind of thing. So we talk about it, I talk about it to you, I instruct, and then we do it together, and then you are sent off on your own. Again, that's not always going to work for children because there are independent readers that when you set them off and to go sit independently and you're doing your tier 2 intervention, there are kids that are just going to sit there and glance through books and not really pay attention and not read. So you have to make sure you're being engaged, and you have to make sure that they have access to their level books. whether it's grade appropriate or not. If they're reading at a level D and they're in a third grade classroom, they're reading at a level D and they need access to those books, and they need access to the books that they care about. And that's what's going to motivate them. All in all, I really believe that all of it, what it comes down to is, one, understanding your students, what they like, where their level is, and what are the things they struggle with, and what's going to help them get over that hump. Having sight words visible is a huge thing. Having those strategies posted is a big thing. Like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be scooping up words, and you have a visual with the picture to show them not only scooping up words, but scooping up parts of the word with a spoon to understand, okay, that I'm supposed to be scooping. So there are many aspects that I've seen in the classroom and also throughout Chapter 7 that I really liked. One thing that I will say that I took away from it that I haven't seen because I haven't been exposed to the secondary classrooms as much is the book clubs, which I absolutely love. I think it's an unbelievable strategy to get kids involved because they're working together. It's kind of like a social aspect, and it makes reading fun. They get to pick their books, they get to talk about their books, they're expected to read a certain amount of that book, and you're not holding them responsible as an educator. Their peers are to read that chapter because they have they want to be able to participate in that conversation. But again, going through each one of those, I honestly believe the biggest thing is understanding their student interests, understanding where their level is, making sure that there are books readily available at their level and with those interests that you know about, and giving them tools and strategies to read those books, and making sure that you're spending enough time within your Tier 2, if you can, Tier 2 intervention for guided reading, to give them, again, to listen to them read and collect that data to understand, okay, this is where I see, they're having trouble with this vowel team, or their sight words, they need to work on their sight words. But knowing those details in depth about each student is only going to help them and also help you as an educator understand what's going to get them to the next level. So again, it was really nice to see that a lot of the things that I was reading about were implemented in the current classrooms I'm in. Just shows what a great district I'm in. It's awesome. Great learning opportunities for me when I do become a teacher, but also, things that I probably need to start, implementing as I go through this is secondary options. So that book club, that really stuck with me, and I will be, if I am a 4th grade, 5th grade classroom, that's definitely where I will be, what I will be implementing. So it was great. Really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I'm able to learn a little and see it on a day-to-day basis.